Okay, it's recording as well. So, that's the goal. Oh, Aaron, you missed our new friend. Okay, load. That's Leon. Help me, Leon. I imagine that Italians had some complicated feelings about all this. It's probably Leon probably said that. In their eyes, the Italy that surrendered was probably a little better than an enemy country. Letting the gold go back there would make their entire voyage meaningless. However, embezzling and divvying up the gold would also make their whole voyage meaningless. Oh, that was Leon again. The country they felt obligated to serve had already fallen. That alone destroyed the significance of their journey. Not a happy story for them. If it's bound to be meaningless anyway, wouldn't keeping hold of even just a few ingots be better than nothing? Sure, if you want to calculate straight up profit and loss, but men aren't like that. The Italians were gathered in a cramped room, arguing fiercely. I don't like it. We must remain true to our soldier spirit until the end for the sake of our fallen comrades. And how do you define remaining true? By hiding the gold on this island? By accepting the proposal of those Asians? We can't trust them, especially that Yamamoto person. We mustn't let our guards down. Unloading the gold and letting the Japanese see it was a huge mistake, yeah, but can you tell me please in detail what exactly you would have done instead if the other option was just letting it sink with the submarine? Oh. Apparently that is your other option. Oh, wonderful idea. Let's just think it right inside a Japanese base. It would have been pulled up eventually. That wouldn't hide anything. Doesn't matter. There's no way to get the gold off this island without anyone knowing. The timing on that was just perfect. If we had just taken the honorable path and scuttled the sub, none of this would have happened. If we had known then that the sub would be broken beyond repair, why did the lieutenant commander contact the Japanese military and ask for help? How was he planning to carry out our mission if they found out about the gold? Our mission was a failure from the moment he asked them for help. All of us have families waiting for us back home. And we've more than done our part, I'd say, voyaging all the way to this island country in the Far East. You might call this fair and just payment for our services. Lieutenant Angelo, if the Japanese prove to be less than amicable, we need to be prepared to take extreme measures. And what do you mean by extreme measures, Corporal? Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room. The Japanese here are pushovers. They're all cowards with no battle experience. And we're the elite. We know the layout of almost the entire base, along with the number of Japanese troops and how they're arranged. If Lieutenant Angelo gives the order, we should be able to subdue them quickly. Only a few of them, Yamamoto included, look like fighters. The rest are just laborers attached to the military. It may look like they have the advantage of numbers, but we have the greater military force. If we kill the Japanese, what exactly are we going to say when the boat comes to pick us up? You really think that'll work? There should be plenty of ways to work it as long as the corpses aren't found. Lieutenant Angelo, it'll be easy to subdue this base. If we kill Yamamoto and the few strong fighters, the laborers will probably surrender easily. Let's have them carry the gold and bury it. Of course we'll have to silence them afterwards. Are you suggesting we massacre all of them? Let's do it. If we kill them all, no one will know about the gold. At that moment, the supposedly locked door opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in. Granada! As the yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield, and they all dropped to the floor. However, in this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for death. I guess it wasn't a grenade. A dud! It's a dud! Fortunately, the shoddy grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open and 3 Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in. Damn it, it's a dud! Kill the Italians! Kill the Italians! Return fire! Fire at will! Yeah, I pretty much figured it would probably go this way sooner or later, considering the huge amount of money involved. In this small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood with casualties on both sides. The three who had jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over, moaning and thrashing. Kino, yeah, they got his lung, we can't save him. Firehead Willie isn't even there. We should consider ourselves lucky. If that grenade had gone off, we'd all be dead. No, I probably shouldn't do that. Mario voice for that. The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged that the negotiations would go his way and had decided to make the first move. Wouldn't. I did read wouldn't, but I think it sounded like would. But yeah, it's wouldn't. Or maybe he'd been planning from the beginning to put them in a position where they'd be gathered in one place to discuss his offer. Rokkanjima was their island. If they killed all the Italians, then not half, but all of the gold would go to the Japanese. There was a chance the grenade might go off late. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. They heard gunfire from down the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked. Lieutenant Angelo, what are your orders? Okay, so it's up there. We have no choice. Kill the Japanese. Lieutenant, these guys are good. Those Italians aren't your ordinary sailors. I see. They needed men good enough to guard that gold after all. We have the numbers. Keep your cool, surround them and kill them. Let's hunt some Italians. As soon as I heard the sound of repeated gunfire, I knew that something which had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst. The eyes of our soldiers looking at that gold hadn't been normal. Yes, those eyes had been entranced by demons. The Italians had been pushed to the limits by the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped after being trapped in a distant land where you can't understand the language of the writing? Thinking I had to do something, I ran towards the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it, that was an extremely stupid thing to do, you don't say. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other. And yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards the sound as though I was trying to mediate some schoolyard fight. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive that was in the heat of battle. Hiraoka! Warrant Officer Hiraoka was lying face down, his entire body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear that he had somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. No, he was still twitching. He might not be dead yet, but on this island without a doctor, no, even if we had a doctor, who could possibly save a man who had been shot this many times in the chest? When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw two more blood-stained Japanese corpses. Legs. I fell backwards pathetically on my butt, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I had ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war, even though millions would die in both east and west. This was the first time I had met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yes, so rejoice, Kinzo. Isn't this the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell out loud, "Come for me, magnificent death!" Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. He dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same. Tajima-kun, what happened? Run away. We'll all be killed. Someone yelled in Italian, and at the same time Tajima-kun let out a scream. Then he grabbed onto me as he fell to the floor. A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. Tajima-kun, run! As he spat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died, but the shock of seeing someone die right in front of me did not freeze my heart. At a fundamental level, all living things are unconcerned with the death of others. The one thing that matters is whether they themselves die or not. It was the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing that froze my heart. Tajima-kun's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood splattered. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian still trying to finish him off even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, Kinzo. Now you finally get what you've wanted all this time. The Italian hadn't fired to finish off Tajima-kun. He had been aiming at the man Tajima-kun had fallen on. Me, Ushidomiya Kinzo. I pushed his corpse aside, scrabbled against the floor, and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor hard enough to tear the ring finger fingernail on my left hand. When faced with death, humans truly can resist with all they've got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but that didn't matter at all. I heard the yelling in Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running, as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die. Why? Didn't I want to die so badly? But now I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me. Beecha did. I can only be free when I talk with her. No. By talking with her, I finally came alive for the first time. I was born. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, Kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might as well be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, snot, and saliva. When I stumbled into something and fell, I was finally able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfight was still going on, and it had spread throughout the entire base. Beecha, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all the Italians to steal the gold. Beecha probably won't be an exemption. Beecha! Beecha! I lived for the first time after meeting you. I was born, so if you die, I'll die again. I could feel every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushidomiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified that I might really be shot if I went back, but I didn't want to die anymore. To truly die. So I was able to overcome my fear. Beecha! Rubens, what on earth is going on? What is all this? There's no need for you to know. Just stay hidden there. Don't come out until one of your fellow countrymen calls for you. I heard an Italian voice. He's over there. Damn yellow monkeys. Rubens stood with Beatrice behind his back and neatly shot the two men rushing at him with 29mm bullets from his Beretta M1934. However, one of the 8mm bullets from their Type 94 semi-auto pistol went straight into Rubens' chest. All three of the shooters were struck in the chest and fell down in a heap. No, Rubens. Go up to the surface. You have to hide in the forest. Rubens. My, aren't we chatty? The next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just sounded. Adding on Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising that he had noticed the encounter. If it had to come to this anyway, we should have taken this woman as a hostage in the first place. Damn annoying, that's what they are. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Rubens' gun. Kya? Well, look at you reaching to pick up a gun without missing a beat. Italian women sure are scary. Damn it, both of you screwed up. He spat this last part at the 2 dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, what had happened to them wasn't particularly surprising. It wasn't the first time it had happened either. In this tiny cramped tunnel, nearly everyone had met head-on. When both sides shot recklessly in such a situation, the result was 2 corpses. So whoever sensed another person pulled the trigger quickest won. That was the only way to survive this battle without a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians had killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on oncoming allies. In the midst of all this were several Japanese men who had stumbled into the fight, wondering what was going on. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone had reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves, trying to stay alive. The entire base had been wrapped up in this slaughter. There was a fierce gun battle taking place on the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop bit by bit. Blood-stained corpses were scattered everywhere. At first it had probably been a proper gunfight. However, as their minds began to grow weary and numb, it evolved into that most basic cause of wars throughout humanity, the desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard words they didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from those of man-shaped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand pleading in another language, so it had long ago turned into a mere massacre. As the number of dead surpassed the number of living, silence began to return to the base, just when it felt as though everyone had died and you could hear the desolate sound of the wind blowing through the caves. There would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of a gun, and you'd remember that the massacre wasn't yet over. This happened over and over again, and eventually true silence fell. It marked the pitiful end for those led astray by gold. The water tastes weird. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpses of friend and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows somewhere. So he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for remaining enemies. There was no sign of trace of any living person. Maybe all of the people in this base had died. Damn Japanese. The Japanese struck first, but at that time we were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men, so perhaps we should be grateful for this day. Even if the boat had come to pick us up, there would have been no honor left for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. I noticed the sound of shuffling feet coming from around the corner and straight to here. Is someone seriously wounded and dragging their feet? Noticing them before they notice me greatly helps my chances. At this stage, there's no point in taking prisoners. We must dispose of all the Japanese. I'll dash around the corner quickly, check to see who they are, and shoot if it's a Japanese person. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably don't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps had come close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian. Run! You... I've been looking for you, Lieutenant Angelo. That makes all of you. I've been counting Italian corpses, you see. Lieutenant Angelo, are you okay? Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor, then his knees, and then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out, so Yamamoto had made the shot. He had managed to hit, even with a short-barreled handgun in one hand and a woman as a hostage in the other. Really though, our Rokajima garrison is pathetic. Am I the only one who's not dead? Trashed all of them. Can't you fight without using a woman as a shield, you brute? Let go. Quiet, noisy these Italian girls. If you'd just be cooperative, I'd at least spare your life. It was such an obvious lie that even he wore a bitter smile. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died along with the garrison in a gunfight. Since this was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell, he couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. By this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he should be able to grab as many as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard. Someone help! Someone! Kill! You bitch! Yeah. She almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. She fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach and pointed his gun at her. I'll make a hobby of taming tomboys. Die! Lieutenant Yamamoto, she had nothing to do with this. Let go of her. Kinzo had jumped out from the shadows. He was holding a gun he had stolen from one of the corpses. Ashidomiya? Oh, so you're alive. Let go, you're hurting her. It was you, wasn't it? You chipped the Italians off. What are you talking about? Yamamoto didn't know that the grenade had been a dud. He had been sure that the surprise attack would work, but it hadn't, so he had assumed that Kenzo must have tipped them off. It's your fault the surprise attack failed and we're stuck like this. You turncoat, you traitor to your country. I know you've been working with them through this woman. Could you see that you caused all this because you were blinded by gold? Run, Kinzo. This man has shot people begging for their lives. He'll shoot you too. Don't talk Italian. If you open your mouth again, I won't hesitate to shoot. It hurts. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut. Stop it, stop it. She has nothing to do with this. Oh, are you pointing a gun at a superior officer? Stop and think a bit, fool. If we agree to keep to the same story, we can have that pile of gold all to ourselves, okay? I could only grab a few on my own, but if we work together, we'll be able to sneak up with even more. I don't mean this as your superior officer. Let's split it equally between us as men. Last time you offered to split the gold 50-50, you tried to slit their throats. Ushido-miya, looks like you prefer lead to gold. Without any hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. It grazed Kinzo's right ear. If Yamamoto's aim had been just a bit better, the bullet would have slammed into Kinzo's face. Kinzo, how could you? You... Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out and planted her right foot in Yamamoto's crotch. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face and he stomped on her chest. Pizza, you bitch, die! Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping that she could withstand the coming pain. No one wants to watch the moment they get shot. You... A blood splash poured out of Yamamoto's chest. Just as you took so many lives for your own personal reasons, I'll take your life for mine. Could Yamamoto hear Kinzo's words until the end? In his last moments, he seemed to grin. Then slowly, he fell backwards with a spurt of blood. Kinzo, are you okay? I was sure you'd been shot. Beatrice tried to stand up, but then doubled over and started coughing. Peach, are you hurt? My ribs are hurting. That brute really was stumping them hard. Will you be okay? I hope they aren't broken. Italian women don't break so easily, but thanks. I owe you my life. If you hadn't come, it would all have ended there. I wonder, is she actually... No? Also no. Okay. Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. We didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for the ship that was coming. I made the decision to carry her away from the island. The man who kept yelling about preserving the secrecy of the base is lying there dead. The next island over, Niijima, is close. A small boat should be more than enough to get us there. I need to take you to a hospital. The wound might be more serious than you realize. That's interesting. I never knew there was a hospital on this island. There isn't. A boat should get us to the next island over. We'll get you to a hospital. As for me, unless I cleverly come up with what happened on this island, cover up what happened on this island, I might end up getting court-martialed just for being here. I have a request. Please don't take me to a hospital. Why? If we go to a hospital and the embassy is contacted, I'll eventually be sent back to Italy. If that happens, I'll be interrogated about all kinds of things. I won't acknowledge the bastards who let Mama die. There's no homeland for me to return to now. This is the end for me, so there's nowhere I want to go anymore. Lieutenant Angelo, Rubens, everyone who was so kind to me, they're all dead. And because of that you want to die here too? I thought you said Italian women weren't weak. Live. Hey Kinzo, what does it mean to live? You're the one who taught me, aren't you? Living is more than just breathing. I don't want to go back to Italy. Beecher, you said that you were dead until you met me. But it's the same for me. I died in that submarine. My homeland fell, Mama died, even Papa died. I prayed that our sub would just sink to the bottom of the ocean, so when we reached this place I was actually disappointed that we'd survived. Then right after that, Lieutenant Angelo started asking whether anyone could speak English. When Kinzo had met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying, and when Beatrice met Kinzo, she also forgot about dying. Now that I've lost my homeland, my family, and my friends, my only wish is for you to kidnap me and take me away with you. Well, I would assume that that's something he, would not object to. Beach. But I know that's a wish that couldn't possibly come true, so at the very least, I want to be with you until the boat comes for us. I don't care about the pain in my chest. After all, when the boat comes and takes me away, I will die. Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest. True. Please, Kenzo, just for the few days until the boat comes, kidnap me. That's a wish I can't grant. Looking apologetic, Kenzo lifted Beatrice up and gently sat her in the boat. Coward. So Japanese men are weak after all. You're right, I am a coward, so I can only grant you half of your wish. With a clunk he placed it, wrapped in a jacket, in the boat. What do you mean? The part about until the boat comes for you. That's the part I can't grant. Huh? What do you mean? Kidnapping you. That part I will do. Kenzo, there has to be a doctor on Nijima. I'm wearing a Navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be of the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I have right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. Guess he just brings a shit ton of gold with him. A witch from a distant country took my lifeless body and gave me a soul. A woman came to me with the gold and revived me with her magic. You are a witch. The Golden Witch. Yes, the Golden Witch. Even though I used the same recipe as everyone else, only my alchemy can turn pasta into a smoking black heap. Okay, so please don't cook for me ever. Just like you, I'm nothing but a corpse allowed to live just as long as you're with me. If you go, I'll die straight away. Oh, that was Beatrice, okay. I won't let you die. Really? No matter what. Take responsibility, okay? After all, you're the one kidnapping me. It was only the packaging of the rice that exploded. And, well, okay, because of that, the rice exploded everywhere into your kitchen. But that's a normal thing to happen, right? I see. So Kinzo-san told you that much. Then, wait, it was you? You're the Nijima doctor her grandfather took Beatrice to see? I mean, yeah, that would make all the sense. Because, I think it was mentioned that they were longtime friends. Why so shocked? It should have leapt to the mind ever since the words Nijima doctor. All of a sudden, a soldier of the Navy appeared along with a foreign woman. Of course I was astounded. And then he actually told me to treat her wounds confidentially since their presence was a military secret. Was that the first time you met grandfather? Yes. That was when we first met. So you're the greedy doctor who followed orders for the sake of gold. It's a bit harsh. He suddenly brought in a foreign woman patient, explained to me that this was a military secret, promised that he'd pay the medical fees later, and handed me a gold ingot as collateral. I didn't want to get involved with any funny business. I was reluctant to say the least. I see your point, but in the end, you did conceal Beatrice, didn't you? I may not be as skilled as Kinzo, but I do have some familiarity with English. I managed to overhear part of their conversation, and that was enough to convince me that they were not troublesome people. Of course, if I were to say that the ingot didn't tempt me, that would be a lie. I was much younger then, you see. What happened to her next? I treated her for some time before a messenger from the Shidomiya family came and said that she would be moved to Odawara. They took her away. So grandfather didn't come to get her himself? Regardless of how Kinzo explained away the incident on Orokanjima, he probably wouldn't be able to move about freely for some time afterwards. Precisely. Kinzo-san has said that deceiving the military was the greatest challenge of his life. So Beatrice went to Odawara and then what? I've heard that she hid in one of their unused villas. After all, Kinzo already had a family at that time. It must have been tricky to manage. So leading a double life was business as usual for Kinzo, even before Kuodorian. Whoosh. What are you doing? Is your butt itching? Tch. And later on, Beatrice and grandfather continued to have their happy relationship in the villa from then on? I have heard that it was a modest, peaceful life. Several years later, they had a child. So, Kuodorian's Beatrice was born. The birth didn't go well.
It was truly a sad tale.
You don't mean she died? Don't be surprised. Kinzo believed his daughter was Beatrice reborn. You can't neglect the heart. It's possible to reason it out. You're right. My apologies.
I don't know how many years Kinzo's son spent with her in Odawara. However, judging by the Kinzo-san we grew to know afterwards, one can tell how deeply he loved her, even if they only had a few years together.
I see. And then he made Kuodorian for his daughter.
Kinzo-san cleverly made use of the submarine's gold to build up a fortune in a flash. Then he made use of his considerable skills in English to make connections with the GHQ, becoming immensely wealthy in a short span of time. There's no need to explain this part to you, Leon-san.
Yes, he used that vast wealth, bought Rokkanjima, and built the mansion. The remaining relatives in Odawara scoffed at grandfather, thinking he was crazy to buy an entire deserted island. If you could carry 10 tons of gold around in your pocket, Kinzo probably wouldn't have bought Rokkanjima. He hid the gold somewhere in Rokkanjima, built up a fortune with the ingots he had taken out of it, and then bought up the whole treasure island.
Exactly, and that started the legend of the Yoshinomiya gold.
What about the mark of the one-winged eagle that was supposedly pressed into the ingots?
The one-winged eagle, or more precisely an eagle of which only one wing is visible.
What do you mean?
You see it often in Europe, do you not? A crest or coat of arms with an eagle spreading its wings on it. The flag of the Salo Republic also had an eagle. Or was it a hawk? At any rate, it had some bird of that type emblazoned on it.
So the imprint was made too lightly, or else it was poorly done.
Correct. They used a rough, wartime press. It was probably supposed to look like the crest of an eagle spreading its wings. It was pressed in at a slight slant, so half of it was too light to see. So half of the eagle spreading its wings disappeared, making it look like a one-winged eagle.
Oh, that was a question. I didn't see the closing and reopening quotation marks there. I guess that was Leon then asking this. Kinzo thought the seal on the gold of Beatrice, the woman who had changed his fate, looked like a one-winged eagle. That must be why he decided to make that his own crest.
If the imprint had been made correctly, it would have been the eagle of the Salo Republic's flag. Or could it have been the two-headed? No, of course not. Passing the night away with Kinzo-san in front of the massive pile of gold, drinking and wondering, was truly an enjoyable experience. However, Kinzo-san didn't want people using that seal to figure out where the gold had come from. The gold he took outside was all repressed with the one-winged eagle design he had created.
And all he did was show you the gold? What a cheapskate.
Of course, after he became immensely rich, Kinzo-san came to me once more, saying that he'd pay me in full for the overdue medical expenses. The amount he came with was a bit much for medical fees, though I did make sure to give him his change.
And you've been friends ever since?
Yes. Kinzo-san was extremely grateful to me for keeping a secret and concealing Beatrice.
Grandfather always says that the old relatives in Odawara were a bunch of greedy liars. I'm sure he appreciated your strong sense of duty, Dr. Nanjo. I think I understand why a person like grandfather came to trust you.
I also had some interest in foreign countries, as well as a hobby of playing chess. Kinzo-san and I have gotten along well ever since. It was a friendship that built up gradually, but grew strong before we knew it. Yes, we have been friends a very long time. People who deal with large amounts of money tend to be quite mindful of small amounts as well. When you refuse to accept anything more than the medical fees...
Oh, that's somebody else again. Maybe it's Will? When you refused... Well, Leon, to accept anything more than the medical fees, that must have earned you his admiration.
Ridiculous. I was just frightened by the large quantity of the money. I began to regret it later. It seems I've never had real guts.
No need to worry there. Guts are one thing you've got no shortage of.
You think so? Well, I appreciate the flattery.
That wasn't flattery. For at least one whole year after Kinzo's death, Nanjo had taken part in hiding the secret of that death. Of course, Natsuhi must have given him some hush money. Still, there could be no doubt that he had had enough guts to withstand pressure from Kinzo's children for a long time without slipping up once. No, that's something that'd take real guts. That sense of duty must be part of your personality.
Perhaps that is my only redeeming quality.
I think grandfather was blessed with a good friend.